Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today we have a very special guest. I say that every podcast, but we have a very, very special guest. Today is someone that I've known for a very, very long time, but out of all the guests that I've had on, probably I know the least. But he's been my mate since kindergarten. We've done some weird things together, like some crazy. Like we had NTT. If you're from school, you know what that means.
Talent time. Let's go.
We did performances together. We did a lot of cringy stuff together.
Made us surreal.
But please put your hands together for Nathan Chidid. I will be calling him Chidid a lot, and he said it's fine for me to call him that. But yeah, welcome him. Hello.
Well, everyone, keep the applaud down.
I actually have a soundboard that can do it, but I'm not going to do it. So I always tell people, I always ask people, tell me about yourself, tell others about yourself. What are you doing? What's going on in the life of Chidid?
A lot is going on. I'd say a lot of new things to get used to, a lot of things changing. I've just started a business not too long ago in like some water waste products, so like floor grates and floor waste and skimmer lids. So just stuff that goes in your bathrooms and your pools, around your pools and stuff like that.
Shout out your company. Bro.
Shout out Surreal Solutions. It'll be in the link, I think. I hope.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
So if you guys are ever in need, use Jonah 20 for a discount.
Is that a thing?
It will be.
Actually?
It can be, yeah, of course.
Oh, that's cute.
So
use Jonah 20.
Jonah 20. So I've been working on that. It's been really exciting, really fun. I was doing podiatry at uni. And then just kind of things happened around the lockdown period where I kind of discovered some newer passions and business ideas, and there were a couple of different options, but that's where we kind of ended up. I started that about August last year, so nearly a year now, and it's been really fun, and trusting the Lord and His process and stuff like that. It's really added a new dimension to my life, and also like spiritually. Just in terms of trust and guidance and reliance, they've been a big part of the last year or so, considering all the, obviously the lockdown saga and what you're going to do with your life. And especially like starting a small business in this day and age is not as easy, I'd say, as it once was. But yeah, like I've got good support around me, good family who are in the industries. I've got the support from pretty much everyone I know, so it's been exciting.
Is podiatry something that isn't on the radar anymore? It
is. It was very hard because we tried. Obviously, when we locked down, we were doing everything online. So, and I'm a very hands-on learner if I'm learning something. And I loved the first 2 years of uni. I was like, this is awesome. Like going to pracs. I didn't go to all the lectures, but enough of them.
I remember.
You know what I mean? So like they were fun, and like just learning about the body, especially, and how we move, and the way your feet work, the way everything works in with each other. It just, I guess, it magnifies the creation of God, and just learning about that was so good. And then
that's cool.
When we went into lockdown, everything was online, so it's like they show you videos or they slideshows, and it was so easy to pass units because you're just like, okay, just link this photo with this photo. It's everything is just reused material. So it was easy to pass my units, but then I thought, am I really learning anything? And I just thought, look, come the third or fourth year, I'm just going to make it, it's going to be really hard for myself because I just need to be knowing what I'm actually doing. And then, we had some like other COVID events and stuff like that, and like in terms of had some vaccination issues and had about 50 to do because apparently I did a blood test and like I've never had the chicken pox, so I had to get like 3 of them.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and then there was something else that my body apparently decided to no longer be immune to, so and like I had about 7-8 to do. I'm like, look,
wow.
this isn't something I'm really comfortable doing. But then, yeah, the Lord opened the doors of Surreal Solutions to me. And yeah, I haven't looked back since. But look, if it is something that opens later on,
Mm,
I'd be open to it. But for now, fully focused on the business.
that's cool.
And yeah, just making my life through that at the moment.
Mm, that's really cool. It's funny because podiatry would be the last thing I've ever want to do.
Yeah.
If you know me, you know why.
Yeah.
But that's cool. So did you say your age? I say the same
Sorry,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Nathan. I'm 23 years old. And yeah, that's what I do with my life at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So me and Chid have known each other for how long now?
18, 19 years.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's actually
18,
crazy.
19 years. Yeah.
We haven't kept in touch this whole time. But it's been like I think it's really cool because me and you, we can just be like, "Hey, bro, how's it going?"
Yeah.
It'll be completely fine. Like
Yeah. It's a very simple process.
yeah.
You know,
It's not like awkward as well. It's like after the first podcast, something that like actually was really cool for me was that him and our mate, like he works with one of our school friends.
Yeah.
And they both reached out to me. He's like, "What are you doing next week?" I was like, "Oh, nothing." To be honest, I was a bit scared
Gonna mug you.
Not mug me, but I was like, because the first podcast I opened up about school and
Yeah.
stuff. I was like, "Are they going to feel offended?" But it was really encouraging. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Well, we just kind of wanted to show, I guess, our support and appreciation behind you and the podcast and what you're doing with the platform. Yeah, like our schoolmate, my workmate now. He was like, yeah, make sure you listen to it because he likes to listen to a lot of podcasts and he drives a lot, so he'll chuck them on while he's driving or while we're at work. And it's just, bro, it's been a blessing to hear the stories of others, of others, and even yourself, and like where you've come, like how far you've come, and your perception and your and the experiences you had in terms of what we thought you were maybe going through versus what was you were actually going through. And look, we were a little bit shocked, to say the least. Like at least on my behalf, I always did see you as the guy that wanted to take initiative with the Christian stuff and the Christian life. And I do applaud you on that. It's something I wish I did a little bit more when I was in school. But now we're here, and now you've got this platform, so I can't wait to be able to kind of utilize it and to keep going from it. And everyone that you've had on here has had some really nice things to say and some good things to share. So
honestly, it's a blessing for me, and I always say, like, if it even doesn't go out, having a conversation with whoever it is, so cool. But I appreciate the kind words.
Of course, man, keep it up.
I think we can move on to your story, your testimony, if you like. Something cool that, like, he just mentioned it with my story. Like, you've been in my life for 18 years, but the things that I was sharing in my testimony, you were just like, you and I'm just going to say Nathaniel. You both were like, bro, we had no idea that you were going through any of that, or like just a shock. And to be honest, you might have seen me as that like Christian kid, but for me, it didn't feel like that. But it was really cool. If you want to get into it, again, you can start from birth. You can start from wherever you want today.
Okay. Oh, well, I'll start with being conceived.
Okay.
I was once conceived through my parents. My parents, I was, so I've heard, the first child to be born through my church. So my parents met at the church, and I was kind of the first born there that was born when the kind of church really started to form. They met through the church. My grandparents met through the church and were really close and are still really close. I guess they've had a massive part to play in like kind of our spiritual lives, even in my immediate family, just the impact of my grandparents and how far they were willing to go and things like that. With them, I didn't really, like, when my grandfather passed away on my dad's side, that was the first time I'd really spoken in. Actually, it was the second time I'd spoken in front of a crowd. It was, I can't remember, is it before or is it after? Because I've spoken twice about like spiritual things in the sense in a public form. Once was when I got baptized, and once was at my grandfather's funeral. I all like the oldest cousins said something about his life, and I tried to focus more on the spiritual aspect of his life, and just what I noticed, and he was one who showed his faith through his actions, and that's something that, like, he always, well, they even my grandmother, like, they just kind of instilled the Christian life, and I would sleep over all the time, and I would wake up and they'd be up at like 6 a.m. outside, coffee and devotions, and it's
Yeah,
something
that's
that
cool.
you always remember as a kid, and the bedtime stories, all the bedtime, true stories, and like the
Yeah.
hymns, and like the Zacchaeus story always stood out to me. But yeah, so it was those two contrasting times where I was up on stage. One was a celebration, and one was another celebration of
Of a life.
life, and the life lived. So they were, yeah, very contrasting events that definitely I feel shaped who I am today, and obviously with the support of those around me. But yeah, I grew up in a Christian home. Look, I've heard everyone say I got
Yeah.
the same boring story, but the more I look into it, the more of a blessing that I see it is,
Mm.
especially when I hear more and more people talk about it. Like, I'm blessed to be in a situation where I've grown up around so many people who love the Lord and fear the Lord. And it's obviously strongly encouraged me to be around it, and even in those kind of darker times where you strain away trying to find yourself, it's always encouraging to know that there's people out there that continually care for you, continually pray for you.
Yeah.
That is, there's something that can't be understated. Yeah, especially towards, like, the 18, 19, 20 life. I'd say I'd probably be at my most distant, obviously, when it comes to like that age, you're kind of exploring the world
Yeah.
and whatnot. I had obviously some morals still instilled in me by my family and those around me. And one thing I was always glad that I had, and that I'd say the Lord blessed me with, was not really getting upset with people who cared for me in the sense of calling me out on things that I was doing. Like, I know a lot of people who can get real, antsy about it and don't want people in their business, but I always found it to be encouraging whenever someone would come up to me and say, hey, like, we've noticed something, like, what are you doing here, or what are you going to do about it, and whatever. But yeah, so I go kind of back again. I grew up in a Christian home at a Christian school with a lot of Christian, friends and family. And I'd say I got saved probably around 8 years
Oh,
old.
really?
So quite a young age.
Mm.
And I guess you kind of start going back and forth in the sense of living the Christian life and knowing what Christ actually done for you. I didn't get baptized until 2021. So yes, it was after the passing of my grandfather. And it was quite the revelation in terms of the spiritual change in my life. I met, well, I didn't meet my girlfriend now, but we've known each other since school. But after our first date, I kind of realized the life that I was living, and I realized how the implications of what I'm doing now will impact how my relationship goes with her, how my relationship will go with my children, what my expectations are. I remember just driving home, and I was like, am I living the life that I want my kids to be living? Am I going to church enough? Am I going with the right, attitude? Am I reading my word enough? And all those things. I said, no way.
That's really cool that like that happened to you. It's like from day one. You've been with her for quite a while now.
Yeah, about 2.5 years.
Yeah,
Probably
and
just over now.
it's like from the first date, it was already like she was already helping you
Yeah.
as like the Bible says that
Yeah.
like they need to be our helpers.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool from day one. It was like even sort of subconsciously or whatever it was, she was already like doing that for you, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
It was quite awesome in the sense of the way that God uses people in situations. Um, it's yeah, like you can't take it for granted. The kind of change that you go through when those kind of male and female instincts and things come around. Like I thought of myself, and even on the first date. So after the first date, she said, "Look, I enjoyed it, but I don't think this is going to work." So it took me another 6 months or so
Actually,
to really get her to come around and say, "Hey, like,
mm,
like I'm serious about this, I'm serious about you." And yeah, eventually, like through many trials and times perseverance and times where like after I prayed about it the first night, I thought like I have no right to pray about something like this, something like her, because like when you're living a life that you shouldn't be living, you feel unworthy, and I definitely felt that, and I thought if I am to feel any sort of worthiness, that I really do have to change my life. And I think from that moment is when I realized that, hey, like, get your act together. Like if you want your kids to go to church, you go to church. If you want your kids to read the word and to understand the word, then you have to read and understand the word and show that day in, day out. So I'd say from that point on, I took my faith a lot more seriously. And again, I wasn't baptized at the time, and I had been encouraged so many times to do so. And I kept saying no. Like I said, look, I don't want to get baptized until I start living a better life, until I start working on this, until I'm reading the Bible more. And then it just hit me. I was like, man, like, I can't do this alone. Like, I will never get baptized if that's the case. Because then you're trying to do it under your own strength. And then when I finally realized that, I was able to pray about it earnestly and say, Lord, this is me and you here. This is the burden that you are going to take from my shoulders, as written in your word. So I started to do that, and I started to read my word more, not because I was trying to be a better person, but because I understood what I was getting out of it.
Yeah.
And from that point, I realized that we don't deserve anything that we have gotten. And I look back now and I think I've got this business, I've got a girlfriend who has really encouraged me in the faith, and like even the rougher times where I wasn't leading the relationship, and when even in a sense she wasn't submitting in a way as part of the relationship, I look back now and I say, wow, this is from us really getting our spiritual lives together and knowing that if God comes first, then our relationship will flourish as second place. And yeah, that's when back then I realized that, hey, I'm not doing this on my own. I've got the guidance of the Lord. And then I got baptized, and I'd say from there it's really been, like a test of my like character, a change of my life, trying to live a life that is through action. Like when people see me, I don't want them to see what they're doing. I want them to see what the Lord has done in me, and just some of the decisions I've made and will keep making, to show people that this isn't just, this isn't just a farce. This is something that I take seriously, and that I want people to be encouraged by. And yeah, that's kind of how my Christian life has really shifted. Yeah, there's always these key moments in your life where everything starts to change. And yeah, I couldn't be more thankful to the Lord for the graciousness and the mercy that He's shown me, not only in my life with the people that He's put in there and the opportunities He's put, but to even know that He came and He died in place of our sin, knowing that we were sinners, and that he didn't need to do that. It's like something you sometimes always forget to kind of say thank you for, and to realize the magnitude of it. So again, if we realize what the Lord has done for us, outside of our own lives and the blessings, you'll realize it through the turmoil and through the times where he has given us the life that we need to live if we follow it. So that's kind of part of my testimony. I mean, as we talk, more things will come out, but yeah,
I think something that, like, as you're speaking, something that sort of came to me was, so when you met your girlfriend, or when you asked her out the first time, and then that initiated something in your brain, like I need to work on myself. That's really cool. And then 6 months later, or however long later,
a long time,
you sort of, in those 6 months, it was like you were sort of evolving, just getting better, I guess. And then you approach her again, and it's interesting because I think people would look at that and be like, well, he's doing things for the girl, whatever, when that could be a possibility. And it probably
it shifted a change. It shifted a change. It wasn't the reason I decided to live my Christian life properly, but it was a part in me realizing the life I was living and what I needed to do in order to be the person that I always thought I was going to be. Or you lose focus. You lose that. You don't really care who you're going to be. You don't, when there's nothing that is pushing you one way. So
when you have no like goal or like pursues and it's cool. And I think you can thank your girlfriend for that, but I would say God was at that work, like at work from beginning. Even before that, he was at work, but you can really see it from then. You started getting interested in someone, then it was like, if this girl isn't interested in me and I can see why, and then you're like, I need to better myself, not just for the girl, but because she has like shined the light on a lot of things in my life. And I think you can thank her for it, but thank God for her as well. And in Paul's letters, every letter, maybe not every, I think apart from Galatians, maybe, he starts off his letter by thanking God for the people. Galatians is different because he just like, he's like, bro, you guys need to fix up.
Get your life together.
And I think that's like a massive thing. And appreciate your girlfriend.
For sure.
But appreciate God even more than that, because he was the one that like set that light. Because
she's not the one that changed me. She was just kind of, I'd say, a vessel. It was and she didn't know much about me because we hadn't seen each other since school. So it wasn't I didn't need to change things for her to see it because she didn't know. You know what I mean? So it was more about what I like. Was I living the life that Christ wanted me to live? And I would say no. So how would I expect to lead a family in the way that I expected to do so if I wasn't living that life? So like, of course, the glory goes to the Father first of all.
So cool. That's it. I think like God uses anything and everything. But to see someone, I say as young as you, because I feel like it's weird. People back in the day, they'll be 23, married, have 4 children. Like, but we still feel young. Like, people that get married our age is pretty young. I mean, I don't know how long you're going to take. We won't get into that. But someone as young as you seeing that is really cool. And it is a bit of there's a bit of a like a dangerous thing with that, because it's like you don't want to focus too much on the future, because then you'll lose the present day. When you want to seize the moment you're in, but that is also bettering yourself for the future. That's really cool. I wanted to just take it back a little bit, because you
I kept going back
you
and
said it.
forth.
You said a lot in a short span, and it was just like I want to take it back to when you were 7 or 8.
Yep.
When you said you became a believer.
Mm-hmm.
Was there like a specific moment, or was it just like a gradual thing? Or
I'd say it was more of a gradual thing. I think around that age, I started to actually understand as much as I could in a sense. Yeah, you're right. It's because you said it. It's because you said it.
Yeah, I told him
Um,
before. The reason I mentioned Anthony coming is because we get distracted because but he has to do it. So thank you, Anthony. But thank God for Anthony. How about that?
Yeah, thank God for Anthony being at the right place at the right time.
Exactly.
But yeah, look, it was a gradual thing. Yeah, I started to come to an understanding of what Christ had done, and you know, and Him dying on the cross to save us was something that, you know, was always taught to me, and was always taught to be the most important factor. You know, not what you're doing, not your works, but through faith. So around that age, I did start to come to that understanding. I don't remember this, I'd say a specific moment, but like whenever I do think about it, I think about the year 2 classroom. So I had,
Actually,
yeah, I'm not going to name drop the teacher, but I don't know why, but when I think back to when I first got saved, or the age, I just think back to my year 2 classroom. I don't know whether it was in that, like, you know, maybe
were
something
you
through
in my
school.
class or the other class? You remember?
I was in 2K.
2K. Yeah, I was in that class. I was like 2K. It was 2B.
Yeah.
2K.
2B and 2K. So I was in 2K. Yeah, we were in 2K. So yeah, so I'd say around that time, and then after that, obviously when you're in a Christian environment, you start to just kind of get comfortable with the lifestyle, with the people around you. I didn't really have anyone that was kind of leading me astray, not until the later years. You know, and even so, even when there were people that probably weren't as much of a positive influence in my life, there were always people around me who were a positive influence. So around maybe like 15, 16 is when you start to see what's actually happening outside in the real world. It's not just footy, school and church anymore. And yeah, you're kind of more responsible, and you more accountable for the decisions you make around that time. So yeah, I'd say 7 around year 2. So I was 7 going on 8 was when, if I was to pinpoint a time, it'd be around then.
Was there ever a moment in life where you, apart from meeting your girlfriend, I guess, but was there a time where you felt a 180, maybe earlier in the years?
Yeah, maybe I'd say at about 17, 18. I wanted to start taking church, I'd say, a little bit more seriously. I had someone in the church who was discipling me, so we have like a kind of discipleship course. It's like a 12-week program before you get baptized. It's just to kind of,
That's really cool.
yeah, it's just so that you understand what's involved, and you know the process, and it's basically to wean out those who are just, it's based on emotion. I'd say I got about 4 weeks in, and I just don't think I was very committed to it, and I think I was more committed to not letting them down rather than my actual relationship and getting baptized in the sense for the right reasons. Especially when you're beating yourself up about things that you're doing, and I think that is something I struggled with the most, especially between 18 to 20, was whenever you're in a situation where you're finding yourself doing the wrong things, being around the wrong people, that you're not, that you're just kind of beating yourself up about it, and you're not able to let the spiritual things in your life actually take course. So if I was, if I got caught up in something, I would be like, look, I don't deserve to reconcile with God about this, like I confess my sin, but then if I didn't want to read my Bible that night if I had done something stupid before, because I'm like, nah, like I'm just mocking God by doing so. And that is the one thing that I think Satan really tries to infiltrate our minds with, is feeling unworthy and feeling that, that you're letting God down, and that you're, that you're not worthy to basically give him your life. In a sense, I think that was a really rough time, because every time I tried to get closer to God, tried to read my word more, again, you're trying to do it off your own power, and then that's where Satan gets you, I guess. And that was the hardest in the sense. So it took a long time to realize that the Lord will get you out of this, and no matter what you do, as long as you are still trying to work on kind of bettering your faith and your understanding of the word, then you're able to battle, and the armor, put on the armor of God, and really fend what the devil puts inside your mind. I think that's the scariest thing, as especially like a growing teenage boy, is that when you're down and you feel like, like this is where God needs to be in my life more, that Satan says, no, you're not worthy. So that would take me away from reading my word as often as I wanted to. So I would go days, weeks without, because I'm like, I'm just mocking God if I read something after I've done whatever I've done. So now when you come to that realization, it's one of the most freeing feelings that you can feel as a Christian. And so that happened again when I was maybe about 2021 was when I came to that realization. That's kind of my seventh way story, my 180, because I did try in 15, 16, 17, I did try and flip my life back around. I went to Melbourne for a church conference, and I just remember saying, like, this is, I know that I'm not living the life I should, even at that young age. And I'd say I tried to turn it around, but again, when you're trying to do it under your own power, it's impossible. We realize that now more than ever, looking back, and just how young and dumb we can really be.
There's something that you, like what you just said, it's called, like, obviously you know what it's called, but it's called shame. Shame is
shame's a good word. I probably should use it.
That's okay. It's honestly the biggest killer for not just young Christian men. I think it is very prominent in young Christian men. But in everyone's life, shame is a massive thing. And I've been talking to people recently about, like, just a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different situations, and it all comes down to the reason why they're not improving, or the reason why they're not doing the correct things, I would say, is because it all leads back to shame. It's like it is genuinely the killer. Why is it so hard to go to church when you haven't been for a while? When you could go to any other place completely fine. It's because you feel that shame. But it's like, oh, I haven't been attending church, I haven't been doing this, and it's like, oh, I can't go there because I haven't been to church, or I haven't spoken to God in a few months. Like,
catches up with you.
But it's like, it's the worst. And recently, literally last week, I would say, I felt like I slipped up, I messed up, and after that, like, it was a terrible week in general, just for me. But after that, I felt forgiven. Like, the shame didn't hit. Like, obviously there was a bit of like I was broken because of what I've done, and that's important to be. But the shame wasn't there, and it felt weird because I was in a state of like, why am I happy right now? Like, I should feel sad. I should feel all these terrible things. Like, but why am I like? I felt forgiven. It's a weird dynamic because
I 100% agree. 100% agree.
And I'm there, and I'm just like. And from experience and my whole life, shame has been genuinely a killer. And I think in most Christians' lives, shame is the killer. And the reason why we don't open up about, I guess,
shameful things,
like our sin or things that we're going through. Maybe it seems like weak-minded that we're like struggling with this one thing or whatever it is. It's because of shame. But the Bible is very clear, like, confess your sins to one another. so we can build each other up.
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
I think it's a scary thing. Two things for me, and you've mentioned both of them, was comfort and shame. Those are the two big killers. We went over comfort in a previous podcast, but I probably went over shame. I can't remember at this stage. But they're both, yeah. For I think especially in the Western world, those are probably the biggest killers for Christians. The reason why we don't sort of improve, or we get like we block ourselves from experiencing
Yep.
God's love or
Yes.
God's forgiveness because we can't forgive ourselves.
Yep.
So was there a thing that sort of took you out of that, like something you realized, or something that happened, or was it just like just a switch in the brain?
I wouldn't say it was like an epiphany or anything. It took a long time to actually instill it in my brain, and to let the Lord continue to work. Because at the end of the day, like, you know, we have what we have undeservedly, and but at the same time, we know that, you know, He is just and He is merciful to forgive us of anything that we do. And I think that is so important when it comes to prayer life. You don't even want to pray sometimes. You're like, man, like, you know, the Lord doesn't want to hear a bar of what I have to say, you know, and you get caught up in that. But I think when I started to realize over time, when I started to realize over time, when I actually just started to just be like, nah, whatever happens in my life, at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, I want to start it or end it with God, and whatever happens. Like, I can't just be continually bogging myself down and you know, and not letting the Lord's blessings run in my life. So again, it was more about that time where I did start to change. So about between 20 to 21 was where I had my real big kind of change in my life and what I thought was important. I guess another big thing to point out is, as you mentioned, like, it's very hard in this kind of Western world. It's also much harder because the world is continually pushing on you that these things aren't shameful anymore, that there is no shame in this, there is no shame in that, there's nothing wrong with this, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think you can get very caught up in that very easily and just be like, oh, you know what, there's nothing wrong with doing this, or, you know, if you're only doing this like this or whatever, then you're sweet. And I think ignorance plays a big part. And it just shows a spiritually weak mind and someone who isn't understanding the word and isn't trying to grow. Like, you know, we want, you know, like the milk of the word, but we can't live off the milk of the word. You know, we have to wean off the milk and really get into the solids. So you can't just keep saying, no, like everything's all good, you know, John 3:16, you know,
John 3:16,
you know what I mean? Like that kind of lifestyle. And I think, if you let people around you who basically comfort your shame, then you're going to be in a really sticky situation. But it's also those kind of people that when you do start showing your faith and you do start showing change in your life, that they are the ones that become uncomfortable and feel shameful. And you don't want anyone to feel shame, in a sense, but you also want them to see that there is ways out of that shame, and that there is like, it's not too late, and it's, you know, like, no matter what you've done in your life, that you can be, you know, forgiven, and, you know, no matter whether you've told one small lie or murdered a bunch of people, it's amazing how God's love is shown to the deepest of what we would consider the most sinful people. And if he wasn't able to do that, then you kind of think, well, you know, then God kind of has is not capable of doing so, or has a cap. But that is not the case, because God's love is infinite and it's merciful, and that aspect of my life, when you start to realize all the miraculous things that he's done in my life, even when I wasn't living the life, I'm just blown away, man. Like, the family I have, some of the friends I have, that I'm still friends with, all those things. I think, man, like, again, I mentioned it before, but you feel so unworthy, and you realize how much the Lord blesses you. And now I see the blessings in such a different light, and bless more and more. Like, and again, blessings is a very hard word to throw around, because then it becomes like, I don't want it to become like prosperity in a sense. But when you basically you start living off the fruits of the word, and seeking joy in those, especially in business. And yeah, like I'll kind of get into that a little bit later. But yeah, that was my kind of rough movement towards that kind of realization that shame is just a way of Satan keeping you from learning and growing in the word.
It's a weird dynamic, because you said, and you're right, where we are so blessed and we have so many blessings.
Yeah,
we're not worthy of the blessings at all.
Not at all, man.
But the funny thing is, I don't know if it was like this for you, but for a lot of people, when we take Christ seriously, or even when we come to Christ, or whatever it is, life takes a turn. We become better, but life tends to get a bit worse. It's a weird dynamic, and that's what we welcome it, because we're like, when you take a step into a leap of faith into Christ, and start walking with Christ, you know that there's going to be attacks from every direction. And something. So I led a Bible study yesterday, men's Bible study. It's crazy, but I was literally like the third, fourth youngest there, and everyone around me is like older than me, wiser than me. But I was just like, what am I doing leading this Bible study? But it's a side note. But we were speaking about, the story where it's in Exodus 17, where Israel go to war, and then Moses goes on a mountain, and when he raises his
arms,
they're winning. When he lowers them, they're losing. The cool thing about it is that, the people they're versing are called the Amalekites, and it was their first war. So Israel's first war by Amalek and his people. They've been to so many wars they've all experienced. But the way they attacked the Israelites were they sneak attack from behind, take the stragglers and the weaklings, and it's just like, and then Moses tells Joshua, like, bro, we need something. Like, we don't have a team, but gather some people. So they gather some like ragtag team. And the coolest thing is, like, Israelites weren't equipped for the battle. We're never equipped for the battle. Or we become equipped, but when we start off the fight, we're not equipped. And then in the story, Moses, Moses, Aaron, and Hur. They go on the mountain. They raise their arms. Joshua goes and fights the physical battle. And the raising of the arms, what's it called? It symbolizes prayer. And I believe that Moses was praying to God, and that's what the raising of arms, and it sets a perfect image for what we need to do. Sometimes we have a battle to fight, and within Joshua, sometimes we just need to sit on the mountain and pray. And then we have Aaron and Hur, who actually helped Moses lift
support. Of course, they held his arms.
And then we have the God that is. It says the Lord is my banner, so that was the focus. Jehovah Nisi, that's the Jewish word, which means the Lord is my banner, and it's the banner of victory. Meaning every battle, even if there's a sneak attack from behind, or like we're getting wrecked, whatever it is. Like, I know Moses by himself would not be able to do it. Joshua by himself would not be able to do it. Aaron and Hur, they would not be able to do it, but God was victorious. Like, God is victory, and Aaron, Moses, Joshua, the Israelites, they were just taking part of it. So they had victory when they took part of God's victory. And sometimes, and the cool thing is, Amalek represents the flesh. And then we represent ourselves. And we're always at war with our flesh, but often we lose. Why is that? It's because we're not lifting our hands up and praying to God. We're not spending time with God. We're not reading. We're not doing all these things. We're living in shame. Or we last, like, one verse before this not chapter started, but these verses started. It literally says the Israelites were testing God and they were fighting against God.
Yeah,
And
so
then
it's
the
going to
next
be pretty hard to win, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And then they realize, like, okay, God is actually, like, he split the Red Sea. He made the Nile River into blood. He dropped bread from
Yeah,
heaven.
yeah. He did all these things for them.
Yeah, he got water from a rock. Like, that's not things. And he's like, this war, sure, we're against the odds, but I mean, we have a God that is far greater than anything. And I think in the battles that we face, and whoever's watching, whatever battle we face, we have victory, and I think we need to understand that. And we fight a battle with sin, and then we fight another battle after that. If we lose that battle, we fight another battle with shame. If we lose that battle, it's a cycle.
It is.
And then but we need to just understand that God is greater than sin. God is greater than shame, and we need to take that banner with us wherever we go. Where it's like a banner of victory. I was saying, imagine going into war. Like, before the war started, you're holding a banner of victory. It's like, it doesn't make sense because you've already won.
Or fighting your own people before you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just tangent, but it's, I think what you were saying, it's just like, shame is the killer, but we have victory over it already.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you haven't said you're struggling with it now, but for me, I still struggle. Like, still have the days where I'm like, shame is a killer.
Yeah.
And it's a weird dynamic, because as Christians we strive for perfection. That's what we need to. We strive for something.
Because Christ is perfection. And if,
we strive for something that we're not going to achieve, but that's how it is. And as we do it, we're going to get attacks, and we welcome attacks, because that will make us grow. And I mean, we see God didn't give them water, to like the Israelites water to begin with, and then the Israelites, they fought, they tested God, and God's like, all right, here's water. But the Israelites became stronger after that, and they fought a war. And I think often we do that.
I think attack shows hurt as well. So I know that the more my life changed, the more people kind of questioned my motives, the more they might have felt uncomfortable, maybe what they were doing. It also challenges you as a person, because people can make great worldly points. You can't underestimate that kind of thing, or basically lessening the impact of sin by a couple of words being twisted. And even, like, the story of Moses on the Mount, in the sense of raising his hands, I think it really shows the importance of the Old Testament. I know that we are, we're here to profess the gospel, and that's our duty as Christians, but people underestimate how powerful the Old Testament is, and how everything is foreshadowed in the Old Testament.
The gospel starts from the beginning.
The gospel starts from, the day that the earth was created, and, like, possibly even beforehand. So, you know what I mean? It's like those kind of stories, even when we look at the story of the serpent, and how they had to look to the serpent to be healed. People saw the serpent there, but still decided to ignore it, and were dying one by one, hundreds and thousands, by however many people had died. But it just kind of shows that there's going to be, like, people turned because they saw other people turning, and they saw the results of that, and they saw that they were getting healed. But then there's some people who will see people being healed, and disbelieve, and be like, no, I'm still not going to turn. And you're going to face that. But again, there's so many things in the Old Testament that just show how we're dealing with things in our present day. And especially as you grow in your faith, every time you read the word, you're getting something else out of it that you didn't get before. And I just think, no matter how many times you read your Bible, no matter how many times you go through it back to front, that there's always something to be learned. There's always like you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're trying to interpret everything and, put it into your own life, because sometimes not even the intention of the word. But it's just, it's crazy. Like when you're talking about that, and it's just more the realization that like, wow, yeah, like life is exactly like that.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's so many different things. But yeah, there's always, there's the flesh that you're always battling with, and how important prayer is in your life, and having people pray for you and praying over people, and just like people, I feel recently, with all that's going on in my life, I think people are really welcoming prayer, in the sense of like, if you tell someone you're praying for them, I think it just changes.
But yeah, it's different.
Like, it's such a nice feeling. Like, when someone comes up to you and says, hey, like, I heard that you were going through this or whatever. I've been, praying for you. Or you tell someone that, hey, like, I really need prayer in this aspect. And then you see them whenever you see them, and like, hey, just want to let you know that like we're still praying over you and what you're going through. I think that is so important, and fighting the physical battle in the sense of turning from the world, and showing that you're, different from them, not better than them. I think you can get caught up in that fact as well. Like, oh, I'm not doing this, so therefore, like I'm signifying that I'm better than them.
Yeah.
But it's not like that at all. I think when you're battling the flesh, it's one of the hardest things, because you love the things that you got comfortable doing. You love the people you got comfortable with. And when they see you change, they either attack you or they welcome you, or whatever the case may be. You have to deal with it accordingly. But it's so important to be fighting the physical battle, and I think that all comes through prayer. They couldn't fight the physical battle if Moses didn't have his hands up. And the people around Moses, Aaron and her, it's just, continual blessings, continual prayer, holding us up. And yeah, God is the victor at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like I know I just kind of went over everything you're saying, but
No, it's good.
it just shows, like the importance of it, and how mighty our God is, and how the truth can really set us free, and everything that can come out of this one book that, like, that is the most printed book in the world, that is all these manuscripts, that has all the evidence backed behind it. And people spend their whole lives trying to go against God. And I just think in this day and age shows more and more why it is the truth, is by how much, like, obviously we're not getting persecuted in the sense of being pinned down to the ground and killed, but I just think our values and beliefs are being shamed in itself. Other things are being celebrated. Like other things, even other parts of religions that are being celebrated in this day and age. But they, you won't see like a football team or a business put up a Merry Christmas with with a baby Jesus, or Easter with a cross. It's always the bunnies, or it's always, other religious duties,
It's interesting, because people, if you represent Christ, you're instantly a homophobe, misogynist, like all these
everything.
things.
You're
everything that's wrong. But it's like, you clearly don't understand what's happening here.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, there are Christians or people that call themselves Christians that ruin it for the rest of us.
A lot of people, yeah.
But yeah, the like, we need to love, like, this is a very random tangent, but we need to love the gays. And misogynist even it's the dumbest thing.
A bit of a tough.
Like, we do have roles and stuff, but it's not like we're equal. Like, of course we're equal. Like, anyway, sorry, just a bit of a tangent, but yeah, you're right. Christianity is not going to be easy, and if people, and I follow a page, you might follow it as well, but it's called Ballers of God or something like that. I'll send it to you. It's really cool.
Christian?
Huh?
Am I still a Christian if I haven't heard of them?
Yeah, of course, but I only followed them like 2 weeks ago.
There you go. Welcome to salvation.
Thanks, bro. And it literally just posts about footballers that share like verses, or they share how Christ works in their victories, and I'm just like, man, this is like so cool. Why is this so hidden? That's what I don't get. Like like we see people with shirts or people like celebrating Islam, and respect to them because they're celebrating their religion, even if we don't agree with it, whatever. Like we need to, like, the footballers need to be holding the banner on the pitch everywhere they go, because they need to show that they are Christ. They are
Disciples of Christ.
Yeah, they are on Christ's team.
But that's also something to be weary of as well. I think when people, defend their faith, like for example, like there's people out there that if you say something about God, they're onto you. But then you look at their lives and they are living everything but that life. So it's very hard. Like you see especially in the footballing culture, the lifestyle that they live. To be set apart is very hard in that world. I think it's all good and well to be posting Bible verses, but to have like, what's your next post if behind the Bible verse? You know what I mean? Like,
what's the purpose of the Bible verse as well? Like,
yeah, and then I think that like, and again, it's not trying to say don't post anything. It's more like, okay, if you're posting a Bible verse, like, one, what are you saying about it? And two, what are you
doing?
What are you talking about, or what are you posting that's not to do with Bible verses? Like, what are you doing in your daily life? Like, is that, are you partying and doing this and doing that and like all these little things? If you have, it's a very disturbing thing to see as a Christian. Like when you see people talking about, God is this, God is that. And then the next post, they're like, I'm like it's hard, because at the end of the day, when we, like, if you're not getting persecuted for your faith, then it's very hard to believe that you are displaying that faith. And I should see that more and more.
Yeah, that's so funny, because on literally on Sunday, that's what we were speaking about. Like it was like, blessed are those who are getting persecuted for Christ's name. Yeah. And we spoke about that. So just and we had a mad discussion on that night about it. It's interesting. But yeah, you're right. If we don't see a difference between us and non-believers, not even just footballers, but people with
in general, it's like footballers is just one aspect of life.
Yeah, and posting on Instagram is like, it's a indication of like, we post a verse one day, and then the next day we're going out partying and not backing up what we just posted or something like that. It's I fully agree with you, and I think we as Christians, and me myself, what am I saying? Not even on a public platform, because it's easy to be Christian on a public platform
on a Sunday on a public platform. All of it. It's very.
But during the week, like at work, or I don't know, where you're not around the usual crew. Yeah. What are you doing then? Like, I think each of us need to be self-aware and self-critical as well. And it's tough. None of us are perfect. Yeah. None of us will be perfect, but we need to strive for perfection. Yeah. We've been through like 14 different topics in a matter of like 10 minutes, but it's cool. Is there anything you want to say on that? Because I wanted to move on, but also go back to something that you said as well.
Say about what? Being self-aware?
No, anything.
No, I'm pretty sweet if you want to move on.
Let's move on. So you mentioned two massive things. Yep. And you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, and you mentioned even when we were like off camera, you mentioned your grandpa and your baptism. It seemed like those two time periods were like very impactful in your life, probably in the recent years, right? Because you said 2020 or
2021.
Yeah. Yep. So I wanted to touch on those a bit more. I think I don't want to touch on the grade, because I don't want to like trigger emotions or anything like that.
I'm pretty good with that kind of stuff. So you talk about whatever you want, man.
You were close to. Was this because you said your grandparents were a big part of your life? Was that your dad's dad? Yeah. Was that like who you were very close to?
Oh yeah. So both my grandparents, on my mum's side, my grandfather passed away when basically just after I started kindy.
Okay.
I remember him. I remember moments. For some reason, I have a really good kind of childhood memory,
That's cool.
like 3, 4 upwards. I can remember the old houses and the structure and faces and all that kind of stuff. I remember being close to him. My grandmother was quite young, so she's only what, I think 64 now on my mum's side. So it's quite a young family on my mum's side. On my dad's side, I spent, I'd say, a little bit more time there. My early years I slept over quite a lot before school, so I was like, all Arabic, no English.
Yeah.
They were kind of they both had their implications on my life in like a positive sense. But yeah, my grandfather's kind of death kind of just really brought back all the things that were going on in the previous years. Just the camaraderie in the sense, and the family dynamic we have. Like all my cousins were all close. We're all close in age, and yeah, like just seeing him go through all the struggles and the battles, and even my grandmother, like what she had to deal with when he wasn't the best, you know what I mean? And he was in and out of hospital all the time, but like he never lost faith, never blamed God, never, none of that, and I think when I had the opportunity to speak at the funeral, everyone spoke, again, I said it before, but everyone spoke about something, but I think I realized how, I guess, faithful he was, and by his actions and by his, words. And again, he wasn't perfect, and I won't see everything, especially in the younger years. You don't know what's going on in the sense of what someone's doing or what. But at the same time, it was such a blessing for me to be able to speak about, the impacts of his faith on our lives, on the church, and how prominent he was in the church. No better than anyone else, but and he cared for the church, and, he would come in early, do all the things that were necessary. And like, these are things that you want to see, in those closest to you, because then it just inspires you to be able to live the same life, a similar life, and know that it's God given, and it's not just, you're doing it because he's the example. You're doing it because you can see Christ's love in their life, and you can see their love for Christ. So I was very close with both sides, but I spent a lot more time with my dad's side. And so now it's just my 2 grandmothers left. Like I try to spend time with them, see them when I can, but and even when I talk to them, their faith is unmoved, unwavering, so cool. And every time they talk to us, they talk out of the blessings of God and what they've gotten from it, and even just to hear, like, they will pray for us daily, like, and they will go name by name, person by person, all day, just to make sure that they pray for everyone.
That's so cool.
On an individual name. Like, and I know it talks about in the Bible, about praying, not just for like things, but people, individuals' names, and the importance of it. And again, like, that's the first like time that I had seen prayer be so, like, how do you say it?
Prominent.
I want to say prominent, but like to feel the impact of someone else's prayer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as I said before, when I was talking about it before, that praying for someone and to be told that someone's praying for you is such a nice feeling. And that was the first time I had that feeling, was when I'd hear that. And you want to, like, kind of repay the same thing. And I think that what God has done in their lives, it's a blessing to us as grandchildren, as children of them as well. So my parents and my uncles and aunties, like, a good parent changes the dynamic of the family.
Mm.
And I think we're all so close because of that. But yeah, my grandfather was someone I respected as a Christian man, and was both of them. Like, again, I can't speak too much on my grandfather on my mum's side,
Yeah.
but I know that they were really close to each other, and they were like the
To
men
each
of the
other.
church. Yeah,
Oh, really?
they were
Okay.
really
That's
close.
cool.
Yeah. So there was a couple of the boys there, and they were the kind of guys who really helped out at the church and were really kind of pushing the church in the right
Mm.
direction. They weren't pastors or anything, but they were just the men of the church that
Yeah, that's cool.
you really, really
Pillars.
respected. And you could see that at the funeral, just how respected my grandfather was. And I could even see the respect of my other grandfather, even at that funeral, where they would talk about the friendship that these 3-4 guys had, even though they died quite a few years back. So my grandfather was like the last standing of those groups, and then we have other men as well who are close. But yeah, it's again, it's such a blessing to hear the impacts on other people's lives of someone in my family.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to push forward now. It's like, what are people going to say about me and the way I lived? Are they, they'll be like, yeah, he's a good guy. Or they're going to be like, well, he, he showed his faith, and these are very important things that I value now more than I did before.
Yeah. Cool.
And that was a good reminder of that, and to remind myself that you are now, like a disciple of Christ. So what you do impacts the life of Christ on other people as much as it is on yourself.
Yeah, that's sick. Like there's something about older people and more experienced people that just like they have so much gold just stored up in them. Like
I know.
Like bro, the amount of things that they can share and the knowledge and wisdom. That's why I was talking to someone recently and I was like, man, like older people always tell us, like we were talking about a specific topic, I won't get into it, but they tell us this one thing, but we all just like sort of ignore it, and we're just like,
yeah, whatever.
But it's I'm sure there's a reason, but I can't see why they're saying it. But I'm sure one day I'll be like, wow, they are right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And I know like times are a bit different.
Yep.
Like this technology is not here, and the way we get into relationships is a lot different than what it used to be. But they have so much weight. There's so much weight in what they have to say.
100%. Stands the test of time.
Yeah, and like I don't know your grandpa, but I know older people that have had massive impacts in churches and people's lives, and like to hear the things that they've done. Every time I leave like a funeral or something, I feel sort of like I want to say conviction, but it's like a feeling towards to like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I think it's important. I think the like legacy is what the word is. What is the legacy I'm leaving behind?
Yep.
But I think that's also a dangerous thing, because
it's a line that you gotta be careful with.
Yeah, because the legacy is like, it's not about me.
Yeah.
I want to leave a legacy of Christ.
Exactly.
It's just, how do I portray Christ? That's the thing. Am I actually living a Christ-like life where like if I died tomorrow, will people be like, oh, Jonah was like, he was an alright guy, he was cool, whatever.
Yeah.
Like he liked football, whatever. He had a podcast. Or is it like Jonah like actually tried to live like Christ as much as he could?
Yeah.
And that's the goal. I want people to know that I'm trying to be like Christ through my life, not through my words, or through my words as well, but through my whole life. And I think that's what, like, again, I don't know your grandpa or both your grandparents, but it seems like that's, that's what you like said that they're pretty much like. It's so cool.
And like another thing is, when you kind of mentioned legacy, I went to like a kind of outing with my church not long ago, and my pastor just kind of had a small 5-10 minute devotional topic thing, and it was about the importance of elders in terms of like old people. As much as they are considered the evil days, there's so much blessing that comes out of them. And when you look at your life now and what you're doing now, what knowledge are you going to be able to share, or what are you going to, not take with you to grave, but what are you going to be able to like pass down? What are you going to be remembered by in a sense? Because if you're not sharing, if you're not learning and growing in these years while your body is able to do things, while you're able to, walk around, while you're able to drive around, like all these little things that we take for granted now as young people, then you're, in a sense, your life was meaningless because you've got nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to be constantly surrounding yourself with people who are growing in Christ and who share more knowledge on Christ and the things that he's done, and biblical knowledge as well. And I think when I get to the age like 60s, 70s, 80s, if I even get there, is, what am I going to say to these people? Because they will respect my word. I will have no respect if I have nothing good to bring.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And there is nothing more miserable than, I'd say, an old person with a meaningless life. And you see it, But if someone who's well respected because they have knowledge and because they have value, both in everyday life and in, knowledge of the word and ways to live your life, because you're able to reflect more in the older stage of life, because you're not as mobile, you're not as busy. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, maybe I've butchered it a little bit in terms of what he was saying, but I just remember that sticking out to me in the sense of the legacy that you leave is so important, because it basically, I wouldn't say determines, because God will be working regardless, but the more things you have to share, the longer the branches can be, and the bigger the tree that it can be. And I think now it's more fruit can come of that. So I'm very happy in life now, because I feel like I'm at a stage where I am growing continually. I'm seeking the word. I'm seeking knowledge and wisdom. I'm, even in my relationship, I'm trying to lead, and not just lead in the sense where I'm saying this or doing that, but what can I be sharing that is of a biblical sense, that is Christ-like, that holds in my partner's life for so much longer, and it'll hold in my life for so much longer. Like, before, my words of encouragement can fade. It's like, like, no worries, I'm here to support you, blah blah blah. Now it's like, okay, you're going through this, what can I be sharing of the word that talks about that? Something that has stood the test of time for 2,000 plus years. The Bible has been around for so long and has the same implications now as it did 2,000 years ago. It's still just as important. Crazy, and in all these day and age of technology, it's unwavering, and it still crazy. Shows that
there's things in the Bible that like genuinely are so relevant, even with technology and like with the way we're living. Like it's crazy. Like the times that we're living in now, we're seeing Sodom and Gomorrah happening again. It's just like Sodom and Gomorrah happened probably like 4,000 years ago, but it's like it's still happening. Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
you're right.
And even in the sense of like, business practices. Now that I'm in my business, I feel like I've also become so much more reliant on trusting in God and his power. And again, I'm not saying that, God's going to look after me. I've got nothing to worry about. I'm not going to do this. Like, you have to be just as hardworking, because hard work is talked about a million times. And I feel like that is an area where I'm still struggling, in a sense. Like, I can be working harder. I should be working harder. But I also know that work isn't everything in life, and there's more to it. And I know that at the end of the day, that God is in control of my finances. Even when I tithe in church, it's giving with a cheerful heart. It's so important. Because at the end of the day, what you give God, you're not asking for it back. You're just saying, look, this is what I'm giving because I trust that the Lord will provide.
Yeah.
And I think now I really see that more than ever, like that no matter how much money comes into my account or goes out of my account, that I know that the Lord is in control and that I'll be blessed from it, whether it's $1 or $1 million. And I think the hardest thing about business is honest business practices. I mean, like, especially, like, not to be kind of racially stereotypical, but you know, the Arab way isn't such a.
I was like, well, where is it going with this? That's funny.
It isn't. Yeah, the Arab way isn't such a honest way sometimes.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's it's going to happen in every culture. It's not just one group of people. You know, there are I know plenty of honest Arab businessmen.
Look, we're both Arabic
of ethnic descent.
Yeah. If you can't tell by our noses.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see me on the camera. But yeah, I just think that, like, especially what I've been able to learn in the business is that if I have $1 that is blessed by God, that $1 will cover me for life, versus if I make $1 million, but I cheat myself out of taxes, or I am dishonest with someone, or I scam someone. It's like, no matter what amount of dollars or cents come in, if it's not, you know, if it's not blessed by God, and blessed by God is money that you've worked hard for and that you've been honest with, then I think life will be quite miserable in a sense. And maybe I won't get this big house and all these nice cars, because at the end of the day, what I do with the money is I pray that, you know, that the Lord instructs me on what to do with it, and I believe He will. And I just got to keep kind of persevering with that and seeking that, because maybe, I don't know, like you don't want the money to come in. Like, now I could be all humble, and then in a year's time, 2 years time, I could be rolling in cash. You know what I mean? And then you lose focus on the blessings of God, and you start doing this and you start doing that. But, you know, like, I'm in continual prayer that I'll be seeking the Lord in all that we're doing. And yeah, like, even on my website, just seeing, like, there's a Bible verse that I'll pull up. That's, I believe, one of the first things I saw when I started the business. It's from Corinthians, First Corinthians 3:7-15. But I'll just kind of read the first two. So neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase. Now he that planteth and he that waters are one, and every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are laborers together with God, and ye are God's husbandry, ye are God's building. And, you know, I think that is, again, it goes into it a little bit more, but it just, at the end of the day, it just basically talks about blessed money and doing the work of the Lord, in the sense of being an honest businessman. And people will see that, again, like, I'd rather less people buy from me that know I'm an honest man than more people buy from me and not be able to trust me. I think that's so important, and that God waters the plants, you know, just like it is with salvation with people. You know, we just want to plant seeds in people's lives. We're not the savior. And He is the one that waters the plants, and He's the one that grows the fruit. So, through this avenue of my life, through my relationship, through my friendships, through the way I am every day, I want to be more of a witness and a testimony, and live my life as a testimony for Christ. And now, obviously, I want to start sharing the gospel a lot more than I did before, because I think that's something I always struggled with, because, again, shame comes into part. How can I say to someone, turn to Jesus, you know, if I am living a life that isn't showing Jesus in my life? So now I feel like, okay, I have got more spiritual nutrition when I'm seeking the word. And again, I don't claim to know everything. I will never know everything, but I feel like I'm on the upwards in that sense. And,
praise God.
You know, and all praise to God for that. And He's given me the strength to be able to do that, and to defeat, you know, the demons that you fight in your own mind, you know. And again, I never, you know, praise God, I never really had to struggle with any kind of mental issues, or in that sense, I was always quite comfortable in my mental space.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, it's that comfort as well that can leave you open and dry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's a to touch on the money, and not even just money, but everything that we have. There's a cool mindset that my pastor shared like last year sometime. Um, and tithing is like in the Old Testament, it was 10% of
yeah,
what you earn.
yeah,
My pastor was like, it's not about us giving to God.
yeah.
It's about God allowing us to keep 90% of what He
Yeah.
gave us.
Very similar message that I got as well. Yeah.
It's so cool.
10%.
Yeah.
The other day.
Yeah. It's like, but all of it was God. God is allowing us to keep 90%. He just wants us to give 10% as a guidance, 10% or whatever our heart wants to give. I'm like God is blessing us with everything that. So if we have $1, like we should still give
10 cents.
10 cents or whatever. Like it's a guidance, whatever you feel like God is telling you to give. But we see it like, I mean, this is one of my favorite stories in the Bible is like literally one verse in Acts 2. It literally says the church in Acts, they sold all their possessions and they gave it to the people that needed it.
Yeah.
Like, bro, imagine just selling everything that you have and just giving to those that need it. It's like one of my favorite stories.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. And it's because they knew like God has us.
Yeah.
And there's a fear in my life that it's like, how am I going to provide for my family when I'm not like
financially well off?
Yeah. Like in my head, like I probably won't, and I'm comfortable in saying that I'm not going to make a lot of money in my future. And like the way that I see, maybe it changes. Maybe I'll be a billionaire, who knows? But I don't see my life being like very financially stable. Like, because maybe it'll be missions or ministry, or maybe it's just working, whatever it is. But I've come to the realization, like I'll provide for my family the way that God will provide for me.
Amen.
Because God provides for me, through that, He was also providing for my family. And it's not just providing money or anything; it's providing like comfort, providing everything else. It's cool. I'm gonna say this needs changing a battery. I was gonna message, but that's really cool. But I can't imagine how it is running a business.
Yeah.
But it's cool that you're taking like the I guess the narrow path, the harder path down. Like it could be.
Yeah, I know. Like, and I expect it to be that way. And to be honest, I'm much happier at going down that way than it being super easy and money's flowing in. You know, because
you're learning.
You know, like at the end of the day, as you said, like you still keep 90% of the funds that God has already blessed you with.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important, and I think people kind of, especially in this day and age, people are seeing more and more of the churches that are starting to take more and more money and to encourage you to give more, but for selfish reasons, or to be, if the more you give, the more you'll be blessed. But again, it's about giving with a cheerful heart. It's about giving what, the Lord puts on your heart to give. And I think when you start to do that, you'll be able to see just how, just the impacts of God in your daily life in the sense of your financial situation. And, it is always encouraging to hear so many people who have nothing and give everything.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's
like
crazy.
It blows you away. You know what I mean? It's like, man, these people need it, like we think like, I don't know, like in the business, it's like, man, I really need this money to be able to pay for this, to pay for that. I'm like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And all of a sudden people are giving so much more and they're not even expecting anything back. You know what I mean? I just think, man, like that is so, like that is so reviving in a sense. In my eyes, it's like, man, like I want to be, like kind of on that and not have to worry, because you always have to worry in a sense. Like you have to know what you're doing with your money and be earnest with it. You can't just give everything away for the sake of giving everything away. You know what I mean? And yeah, the same thing goes with with saving all your money. What are you going to do? You keep saving all your money, you won't spend on a single thing. Like, it's the same kind of
Yeah,
concept.
it has to be balanced.
There needs to be a balance, and you need to be seeking that from
Yeah.
God. And I think that's where true happiness, in the sense of a worldly life, like living in the world, will come from, is knowing that you can trust in God to provide for you, both, as you would with, you trust that God has saved you when you give your life to Him. The same kind of trust there, same kind of trust that you have when you're praying for a partner and the Lord provides you with a partner. You know what I mean? So, just like I'm grateful for the relationship I have with my partner at the moment, I have to have the same attitude when it comes to business, when it comes to like everything else in my life. So,
yeah, it's really cool. It's cool. We've spoken about, like, unintentionally, we've spoken about God's names, like Jehovah Nisi, Jehovah Jireh, like Jehovah Jireh, my provider. So just cool.
Like, and again, like this is the beauty of furthering your knowledge and being around people who know the word, who are strengthening you and don't beat you down if you don't know something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think, like, what I'm really trying to work on is the memorization of Bible verses again, because I used to be really good at it.
Actually,
like, I used to get all the lollies in Sunday school. I used to get all of them.
That's
cool. So, and now it's like, man, even in this podcast, like, like I did share a verse, but it's like, I feel like I really want to be, as much as, I trust, and I know that I've read a bunch of things that I talk about. I feel like I need to be bringing more of what those verses actually are, because they are they're more important than what I have to say about them, because I'm paraphrasing in a way, or I'm just showing examples of, like I feel like as time goes on, I want to be able to know my word more, in a sense where, like, someone's talks to me about something, I know what to bring up, even if I know what to bring up, like, where am I getting this from? Where's the source? Am I just saying it because it's convenient to say that God loves you, or am I showing you how God loves you, why God loves you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't just say, hey, God loves you. You're like, why?
Yeah. It says it here.
Because God said it.
Yeah.
It's not going to work like that, So
that's cool.
I'll be continually kind of working on that and praying about that and stuff like that.
Recently, actually a few months ago, at one of the men's Bible study, I said to the guys, I was like, guys, we speak about reading the Bible and praying all the time, and it's obviously because that's the staples of Christianity. That's as simple as it is, that's like the complexity of it, like at the same time. Yeah. And I was saying, I would love to, whoever's down, let's start memorizing verses. So we got like 4 boys, and we attempted to start, but it sort of died in the water. Yeah. And then a few weeks ago, or maybe like 2 months ago, one of the guys was like, I've been memorizing the verses. I was like, okay, very cool. Legend, bro. And then it sort of just evolved into a lot of the church actually being, we have a group chat, but it's like a lot of the church now, we're all memorizing a verse. Like,
do you get a prize?
No prize. The prize is memorizing the verse. And we have a bunch of people, and we're memorizing like one verse, or like whoever picks a verse picks 1 or 2 verses, and we learn it week by week. It's actually like, it's so cool. Like, memorizing scripture is so important, and the funny thing is with Paul, he in his letters, he quotes scripture all the time. He just never has a reference. Yeah. He always just says, like, I mean, well, if you
look at our Bibles now, there'll definitely be a reference to the verses.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. At the time, I know.
Yeah, memorizing scripture is so important, and I'm excited to continue and to get better at memorizing. Right now, it's like last minute, sort of like Saturday night, Sunday morning, I'll memorize it. I don't know. It's not good, but
that'll start to change. That'll start to change.
If you haven't realized, when Chidid was reading, he was reading KJV.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, brother.
I see me go to a Brethren church.
You're a Baptist church.
No, I was joking.
I like my KJV, man.
I don't know how you do it.
Look, people always say, oh, it's too hard to read, it's too this and too that. I say, look, you're right. It's tough to read, but like it gets you thinking in a way. Like if you don't know a word or it doesn't make sense to you,
Search it.
search it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like you know, if you're reading the word, why wouldn't God give you the ability to be able to understand it?
Yeah.
You know, he's not just going to give you a bunch of gibberish. You know, the word is not speaking in tongues. You know what I mean? It's in, you know, obviously there's languages that it was written in, and like as you grow, you're able to seek, you know, what does it mean in Greek? What does it mean in Hebrew, Latin? But you know, like God will give you the ability to be able to understand the things. It's not like saying, oh, I'm going to read this word and know what it means, even if I've never seen it. But like, yeah, there's a million things that I don't know, but like I'm more than happy to be able to go and understand it. And again, I'm not a version trasher.
Version trasher.
You know what I mean? But like that is something that I have grown up with.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I know it's been around for quite a while.
Each to their own. As long as it's not like, I'm going to trash some translations.
The message.
Look, yeah, the message is on the
spectrum.
Bottom. Yeah, but there are some that just, I actually forgot what they're called. Amplified. Is it amplified?
Man, I'm telling you, I don't know many. I try not to know. But yeah, you see
there
it.
Are some
It
like just don't read it. Like it's like you can go to it if you're reading the Bible, and then it's like it's like, oh, I'm not really understanding. Go to it, maybe it'll help you, but don't read it as your Bible because I don't know what versions there are. There are some out there.
It's just like it's like it becomes more of an inspirational talk than but that's like sermons these days.
It's true. In
churches, you know, they're just like, how can we positively uplift people rather than, you know, what is the work of God doing in your life? Like, why aren't you feeling convicted about certain things? You know, why do you feel like, you know, like things like that have meaning. Not just there just to try and stir your emotions up in like I love God. Yeah. You know, because we should fear God.
Yeah,
you know, God, and I think it's not fear in the sense where we're so scared of God, but rather than, you know, we know that life without Him is scary.
Yeah, that's a good way to put
it. So yeah, and yeah, again, like I'm KJV, but
I just thought that was funny.
Yeah, it is. It is a little bit funny, and even reading it, it's like, even reading it on the podcast, like in my mind, I'm thinking, man, like
people are gonna be like, what is this whacked up saying?
and you know, I'm reading it, I'm like, man, am I even getting the words right? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I know the verses, but it's just, you know,
each to their own. Me personally, I love ESV. I think that works the best, and from what I've heard and researched, it seems to be like have a good balance of meaning and translation. So I'm like, that's cool. Anyway, that's side topic. I think we'll take the Polaroid now. I think we've been going for like an hour and a half.
Yep.
I still have things that I would love to talk about, but this got a set. So do you know what the Polaroid is? Obviously.
It goes on your wall. There it is. Yeah, it's behind me.
Is it?
I am a long-term lover of your podcast.
Thanks, bro. We can take a photo and then we can continue talking. So you take it. You can.
I'll take it of you.
No. But you have to be in it. But you can take one of yourself by yourself if you want.
Like that.
You can
Where's the
do
button?
whatever you like. It's the red button at the top.
This one.
The front. Sorry. Yeah.
So all right.
So how do you want this? You can position me in any way.
All right.
They're all pretty much the same. And do you want flash on or off?
You tell me. Does that flash on?
Yeah.
Are they all flash on?
No, the first that's off. The one in the middle's off. The one with Simon's off.
Let's just do it on. What's it?
It's on. It's on now.
It's
yeah.
on?
Yeah.
Can I see what it's going to look like or not really?
Probably not.
No, as in like, can we see where the camera's positioned?
No.
Oh,
did you take it?
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You're good. You're good.
Okay.
You have to hold it for a bit.
Ready?
Yeah.
You good?
Alright, sweet. It's just like I don't know what to do. Alright, let's hope this, because some of them have come out a bit dodgy, so I don't know why.
That's alright.
Alright, into the cupboard it goes.
For darkness?
Yeah. Alright, so what is it?
Let's bring it back.
Let's bring it back. We spoke about. You spoke about baptism.
Yes.
And your baptism.
Yep.
Something you said was really cool, and not many people people don't get baptized for the sake of it. They're just like, there are many different reasons, but your reason was pretty cool. It's like you want to actually take it seriously before. I don't know if I fully agree with it, but I do agree with it at the same time. It's a weird, because in baptism, like, I mean, what the Bible says is that people got saved, they got baptized, then they lived for God. So at the same time, I sort of disagree, but I also agree.
Yeah. And I know, and I the same thing with me. Like when I think about it, you know, like it wasn't the best approach because it stopped me from really seeking God and trusting God. Like I relied on myself to try and live a better life instead of letting God take control. Because at the end of the day, if you have a sinful nature and you're not seeking the God who doesn't have that, then you're always going to fail. And I think the thing with me is that, I got saved at such an early age and so long between the time I got baptized. Usually you get saved and then you get baptized after. You know what I mean? So like the process is already kind of out of whack in a sense. So that is a kind of a journey that not everyone has. But I just think like I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to let God down or let people down. Like if I get baptized and I'm living a trash life, I'm just, again, it's like a shame thing. It's all shame. But you know, again, the realization that it's all God that does the work, and it's God who gives us the strength to do so, that I thought, this is the time, regardless of whether I am perfect or not perfect or trying to be perfect or whatever. I knew that now I was taking my relationship with the Lord seriously. I was doing the course with like, you know, a desire to do so and to decide to keep growing and learning. So, I know what you mean, where you kind of agree and disagree, and same with me. I agree and disagree with it as well, but that's kind of where I came to. And at the end of the day, like I got baptized and I knew that I had the right heart, and I knew that, again, it was even shared in my testimony, because we have to give a testimony before we get dunked. And I was kind of just able to share that. And, you know, I've been at my church for 23 years, you know what I mean? And they've always encouraged me to do so. And, you know, you'd say no, you'd kind of brush it off. And a lot of people in my life, it was very warming to see me finally make that decision.
Yeah, that's cool.
And even to those people who didn't know that kind of aspect of my life, it's like, okay, I haven't done the best job in terms of witnessing to people, in terms of sharing the gospel. But here's an opportunity for me to show people that this is a public declaration. This isn't what gets me saved. You know, salvation is a separate thing. And I think people really, obviously of different belief systems, try and justify the baptism part of things. And, you know, you'd think as a Baptist, you know, I don't know. But like at the end of the day, baptism is, again, it's a declaration of your faith, and it doesn't do the cleansing itself, but a part of the process, you know. And it was awesome feeling getting up there. And obviously you get nervous and you think, man, like this is the first time that I'm publicly speaking about my faith, you know. This is a change now that I have to make sure that I uplift and like I hold myself by. And I feel like I have been doing that. Again, stumbling is a part of life, but the way I deal with the way that I stumble is so different.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you're not giving Satan the room to be able to really be working at, you know, like if Satan's trying to get you in other ways, then that's a good thing. You know, like, you know that you're on the up. And again, praise is all to God for the changes in my life and whatnot.
That's so cool. It was baptism is something that I'm like extremely serious about. Like I love baptism so much because I think because I was saved at a baptism. Like my sister's baptism. The day of my sister's baptism. Story, So the maybe weeper. That's what is it?
The weeping.
The weeping, the weeping, So the night of the baptism, that's when I came to Christ, and maybe that is why I love it and I take it seriously.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something a bit controversial. It shouldn't be controversial, but it might be. People, like, I'm going to say you're not saved by baptism.
No.
Definitely not. And I think people know that. But I think it should be as serious. Like, I think baptism is something as serious, and maybe we take it extremely lighthearted. But
I agree.
It's something extremely serious. Like, you are saved. I'm not like, don't get me wrong, you're not saved from baptism, but it should be taken
as part of the process.
Yeah, because we say, like, the Great Commission is make disciples, just baptize them, and then help them grow.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, because whenever people get baptized, I remember sending a message to the youth, like at my old church, when they were all thinking of getting baptized. I just clicked on a work Teams message back soon. So let me get it up. Okay, I'll read it. I sent this to my youthlings, as I like to call them, when they were getting baptized. It's a little bit long. I sent it with a video, like a sermon that they could listen to.
Yep.
But obviously I can't share that. I'll just say this. Okay. So if anyone is thinking about baptism, please listen to this. Or if you haven't been baptized, listen to this. I just wanted to let you know how important baptism is in my opinion. So you might not know this, but on June 1st, 2008, my sister had a baptism. And funny enough, that's the day I gave my life to Christ. So baptism has had a huge impact in my life. So saying this, when I became a Christian, I was so hyped about being baptized and wanted to get baptized as soon as I could. So I think about 7 months later, I got baptized, maybe a bit longer. I can't remember. I don't want to say I regret getting baptized earlier, because I don't, but there are a few things I wish I looked at before I did. This is what I was saying. Like, I agree with you, but I disagree with you. So firstly, I think that I was all for appearance and stuff. So at church, I was a good Christian young boy that always volunteered for things and was just a good boy. But at school, I was the opposite. I wasn't completely terrible, but I didn't show that I loved God at all. It wasn't until year 8 that I actually turned my life around and wanted to live my life for God.
Yep.
I'm telling you this so you can understand that if you feel like you're not living your life for God, then really think about it. If you are living your life for God, then go for it. No hesitation. Baptism is a way where you show people that you're God's child and you are born again. And if people see that you got baptized and that you are a child of God, but you're evidently not living your life, it's not good at all. I don't know how your life is when you're not around me or whatever. I'm just telling you this because I love you and because baptism does have a big impact on people. So if you are devoted to live your life for God, go for it. If not, think about it. And I think think about not getting baptized necessarily, but think about changing your life.
Yeah. That baptism is just a symbol of that.
Yeah. And I'll put a YouTube video in the eye if you want to know more. In the eye somewhere. I think it's over there.
Keep forgetting about that camera.
What camera?
The middle one.
Not the main one. Yeah. It's a long sermon. If you don't want to listen to it all, you can go to 1 hour and 4 minutes. That's how long the sermon is. It's weird because the what's it called? The title is Why People Hate Church. It's a weird sermon, but it talks about baptism.
Yeah.
So, it's good. I recommend listening to it.
But that's a strong topic of its own. And it's what deters a lot of people from the faith.
Yeah.
Again, it's the impact of man on God's word and what it says and how people live.
Yeah.
Like a lot of your podcasts have been about people who have struggled in their churches, and obviously have found refuge in another place that is sharing the word in a much better way. But even in baptism, like what you were saying was like pretty much spot on. It's like you're going to make sure you're doing it with the right heart, because I think the problem that people can face is they can get baptized having their heart not really in it, then going off, living their own life, realizing that they weren't actually saved in the first place. And then, they're like, if you get baptized multiple times, what is it saying about, like Christ's work in your life and the truth behind your word? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you should be, when you come to that decision to get saved and to be baptized, you got to understand that this should be a one-time thing. Anything more than once, it's like, oh, like, did God's power not work in this person's life? But no, you weren't actually where, your emotions made you feel you were. And I think that is very important. Like, it's a very important topic, as you said. It's like, you encourage everyone to be baptized as part of their salvation. But you have to be, making sure that you have the right intentions. You're not doing it just because I have to do it, but you're doing it because this is a way that I can show my faith. And it was a way, even for me, when I was up there, to say things that I've never said to people, or to show a part of my life that I've never showed to people. And like, people who came for that night, probably first time, second time, third time, or whatever, however many times they've been there, it's another time for them to have been there and to be able to hear what the Lord is able to do in my life, and those others who are getting baptized as well with me. And I had the privilege of getting baptized with my brother. My little brother kind of just popped up in my mind.
Cool.
So, he was doing it. I was doing it at the same time. We're kind of going through our own little things. And we thought it'd be, pretty special if we got to do it together, and kind of just show our support for each other, with each other. The implications that I know I probably have on him, my sister, my family. Again, it comes down to what I want to leave them with and what I want to be remembered by, even by them. Like, my brother's just about to turn 16. Benji, if you're watching this, shout out. Sorry for name dropping you.
Happy birthday, bro.
Happy birthday, Benji. But yeah, I think how I live my life, I really realized that, if I'm encouraging him to do things that are of the word, then I'm obviously discouraging him to do things that aren't of the word. So, I don't want him to live the life I lived. Again, I'm not going to be out here and say that I was, doing this, I was doing drugs, I was having sex, none of that. But at the same time, it's like each sin holds the same value.
Yeah.
Same
weight.
And it has the same weight on it. And every one of those sins basically takes us from the glory of God, and removes us from his presence. And to be able to be saved and to be cleansed of that, and to know that no matter what I do, that the Lord will forgive me. Obviously, you want to be coming with an open heart and confessing to him. But again, even with my brother, it's like, I've really realized the implications that I'll have on him, just as I did when I was thinking about my partner, and I was thinking about how I'm going to lead her, how am I going to lead my children to follow the way that I want them to be down. And like, I can't just say to my brother, hey, make sure you're going to church, or hey, make sure you're reading your Bible, or make sure you're listening to the right things or doing the right things, and me not be doing that. And again, I'm not perfect. They've seen me stumble. My partner's seen me stumble. My brother's probably seen me stumble. It's like, I just want them to see at the end of the day the growth that comes from it. And just be a positive influence in that sense, and let the Lord do his work in their lives.
It's not about being perfect at all.
Exactly.
It's not like, if you are striving, and this is in life itself, if you're striving to do better, if you're striving to love God more, and you constantly fail, but you're still striving, like, I mean, that's, like, that's it. Like, that's, you're doing the right thing, because we're not going to reach that without striving. Well, we're not going to reach it in general, because until we're with Christ. But like, just as long as you're putting in an effort, like, we'll bring it back to the banner, or you're going to have victory over it. Sometimes you'll slip up, sometimes you have a lapse in judgment, or sometimes you have a bad day, and you'll grow from that. You'll learn from that. Sometimes you'll be hungry, sometimes you'll be thirsty, like spiritually, physically, sometimes.
All the
time. But at those times, you're either going to fall, or you're going to rely on God. And relying on God, as you can see with Moses, he God saved all the Israelites because Moses was faithful constantly. Moses and Joshua and a few others, but a lot of people around him were impacted by that.
Yeah.
And the same thing in our lives is when we are striving towards God and we're reaching out to him and we're praying to him, we're doing what we need to do, what he tells us to do.
Yeah.
It's not only going to change our lives, but it's going to change people around us as
Yeah.
well. So yeah, that's the thing that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I just there's a lot of kind of beauty in following the ways of the Lord and the fruits that are, again, like everything that I've said is literally just based on how blessed I've been in my life, even before I took the word as seriously as I did.
God had his hand over your
exactly.
life.
And I'm very thankful that when you stray from God, no matter how far you stray, whether you're just here or just there, it's all the same. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm thankful that I didn't stray so far away, but at the same time, I am still strayed just as far from God in whether I'm here, whether I'm there. So, I guess it's like looking into the future. I want to be obviously a better vessel. I hope that this podcast, I'll probably be sharing this around, so a lot of people will hear things that they've probably never heard me speak about. And just the way that the Lord has worked.
It holds an accountability to you as well.
100%.
Because people you don't really expect, or people that know you and haven't heard you speak like this, they're gonna put you up, like subconsciously, they're gonna put you up higher. So now they're
going to be aware of everything I'm doing, what I'm saying, what I'm doing.
It's a blessing. It's
same as baptism, though. And that's why another part of why I was scared to be baptized. Like, if I'm not living this life, then how can I push? Like how can people look at me and be like, oh yeah, he's living the life, or he's whatever the case may be. So
I think that's good. Honestly, thank you for coming on. I think we can end there. Let's look at the photo.
Let's look at it.
Hopefully it's not messed up. It's pretty cute.
Is it?
The thing is with all these photos,
it's because my face is flashed.
But it's not too bad.
Yeah, I've seen worse.
I'll get you to sign it.
Yeah, of course, bro. Don't sell it, but
so you pick any pen you want. I need to get more pins. I have one more pin left. Everyone needs to pick one. While you do that, think about, if you want to, doing the outro. You don't have to, but if you want to, and then I'll show the camera the photo. Yeah. We've been going for a bit long, but that's okay. An hour and 50 minutes.
Oh, I can't really read this.
Yeah, look, I've been meaning to get new Sharpies, but I say every podcast, but I just haven't done it. Maybe one day I'll get it. You know what? If you're watching this and you're a guest on the podcast, like a future guest, bring some Sharpies if you love me.
Before we, I gotta sign it, but
you have to sign it. No one really signed it. You don't want your signature on.
It's all right. Scan me in my signature. But look, before we kind of head off, I mean, we didn't we talked a lot in nearly 2 hours. Yeah. But we obviously go back and speak. Show the photo. Huh? Oh yeah, show the photo. So me and Jonah, as I said, or as he said, go way back. As NTT partners, as even on the school soccer fields. That's all right. No, it says beautiful blessings of Christ's love. And it's just, again, such an amazing thing to see come into action, in the sense of never did I think I'd be sitting doing a podcast with you. Like, even when you first started the podcast, I'm like, oh, this is cool. But I didn't really think that much of it.
Yeah.
And then, I'm again, man, we've been mates for a long time. I know we haven't been the closest of mates the whole time. And not exactly sure the Lord has in store for us.
Yeah.
As you know, as friends. But at the end of the day, man, like I look back at all the memories that we have together, and just like how positive it was. And man, like I don't have a single kind of like negative, thing to say about you. And I know that, again, like what you were going through, and what you saw through your own eyes compared to what maybe we saw, like I just, obviously words of encouragement in the sense of, I kind of always, or like the boys did always see, or some of us boys saw, I don't know what other people think, but the people that I have talked to about it have always seen this in you. And I'm glad that, you are taking this step, and, this is a great way for,
Thanks, bro.
things to be shared, because like I obviously want to point it out of like just how like amazing it is to be here after 18 years of knowing each other. Like I know you were in like what in the Mrs. I'm not gonna say that,
The what?
in kindergarten.
Oh yeah.
What was it?
KN.
You were in KN, bro. You were in the
Same
dark
teacher
class.
as you too.
You were in the dark class, brother. I was in KB. Team KB.
Yeah.
But like I remember all the early days, man. Like all the early birthday parties.
Yeah.
What we made people drink not so far away from and to see us, grow, especially in the last couple of years, and talking to you even off camera about the, what we're doing with our lives and how we're impacting others. And, obviously we want to be leading people to Christ. And now I think we're both in a position where we can, really be planting seeds and talking to people and have a real hunger and a heart to serve Christ. And like, man, again, I'm super stoked to be here.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't really like, obviously Nathaniel was the one who encouraged me to be on here. Like I was like, yeah, this is cool. Didn't really think to be on it, but he's like, look, he's seen, the change in my life, and he said, hey, like, it's worth sharing. I thought, you know what, like,
Praise
why
God,
not?
bro.
And if he's seeing that, like he's been around me and he's been quite close to me, even just seeing the lives of some of the boys in our group start to change, and now we can develop a relationship that's not just surface level, and that this basically adds longevity to our relationships with the boys. Like if we can talk about things of God together, then we're just going to impact more and more on each other's lives and on the lives of others who aren't living that way. And if more of us are living righteously and and seeking after the milk of the word, then it only encourages people to either stray further from us or to come closer to the truth. So man, keep it up,
God, bro.
And,
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Literally all glory to God. This is
Amen.
just a passion thing, but
Anywhere?
literally anywhere. It's not over someone, but he's thinking.
I'll go next to good old Steve-O.
Steve. But yeah, praise God for just all the work he's been doing.
Yeah, and all the people in our lives who have gotten us to this point, obviously through the strength of Christ. Like, there's obviously special shout outs to those people, not really name dropping, but some people who have been a spiritual guide in my relationship with my partner, with my relationship with Christ, and how they all link together. So like, praise God. Super grateful, man.
Did you want to do the outro, or you want me to do it?
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll do the outro. So just for clarity, I always forget, but Jonah in the pod
and
out and the pod.
Out the pod.
Jonah out the pod.
That would make sense too.
Jonah and the pod. Yeah.
And the pod, yeah.
So thank you guys for watching, for listening. It's been a great honor to be on this podcast with Jonah. Jonah in the pod and the pod.
The pod, out the pod, all the pods.
All the pods. And
pods,
even hearing the meaning was cool, like, about the pod.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks again, guys, for watching and listening, and we hope to see more guests soon, and just the lives of Christ changing people and whatever other topics you may be talking about. So yeah, have a good one, guys.
Do you want to shout out to Cereal Solutions?
That's the one. So
in the link somewhere.
It'll be in the link, hopefully. If you ever need floor waste, floor grates. If you're a builder, hit me up. If you're a renovator, hit me up. I got some trade prices, so I can definitely look after you. So thank
Jonah
you.
20 going to be a thing?
Jonah 20 will be a thing. I will say. All right. So yeah, 100% it'll be a thing. So I'll punch it in.
If you want, subscribe, like, do all the.
Oh yeah.
things.
Sorry, man.
No, look,
I'm not used to doing outros, I'll say. But hey, make sure to like and subscribe and comment and love and share and do all the things that.
Get them to comment something.
Comment something that. Comment
something, the word something. All right. Thanks Chid. Honestly, massive privilege having you on. I'm sure we can have you on again. We've spoken about like 30 different things today, but we can talk about 100 different things.
Probably can go back and talk about our school life and stuff.
Yeah, it's true. All right, I appreciate you. Thank you for hopping on again. Thank you for watching. If you're still here, again, say something in the comments. And we will see you next time.
We will.
All right. Peace.
Peace out.